Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. This is episode 186. Good to see you on this Thursday morning. Thank you to everybody who's joined us live here today. Everybody that's watching on the archives, welcome. Today is Thursday, and just like every Thursday, we're going to be talking about business development, entrepreneurship, which I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about it all day long, although that's probably true of all of our topics. And good morning to my good friend, co-host, and business partner, the one and only Matt Maddox. How are you this morning, my friend?
Buddy, it is sun shining in Florida. It's a beautiful day. I'm ready to grind it out, man. I'm ready for the hustle and the sweat. I'm ready to go at it. I just wish that there was a way to slow time down. You know how it is? It's like 12, 1 o'clock at night and you realize, oh, all right, let me sleep 4 or 5 hours and try this again tomorrow, Like that's really just time goes by so fast when you're doing what you love and when you're sweating it out and you're hustling. When you live life the way you're supposed to, where you take care of your health, you put your family first, you apply yourself to personal growth, spirituality, and success. Who's got time for TV, my friends? The only TV I watch, let me break it down for you, okay? The only TV that I watch, and I mean the only, hear me, the only, I do not watch the news, okay?
No.
That's number one. Number two, every once in a while I watch ESPN, Sports Center, every once in a while. If I can squeeze it in, if not, I just grab it on the app. But the only TV that I watch is The Profit and Shark Tank. Everything else is a pure waste of my time. You know what I'm saying? So I love The Profit. This is our business and entrepreneurship show. Mike and I both have watched every episode of The Profit. I know I've gone 2 or 3 times on most of them. I love his people, process, and product. I love that, and I believe in that. I believe that in every business, it comes down to people, process, and product. I mean, and then it kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about yesterday, Mike, about keeping it simple. How many people do we know that so overcomplicate business, so overcomplicate it to the point that they don't have proper process, people in place, and their product sucks, right? So how are you doing, my friend? We got a special guest today. Tell us a little bit about that, man.
Yeah, sure. I want to jump to one question quick, and then we're going to pull in Nate Forrestal, who's been on the show before. He's a young businessman, entrepreneur. We're going to do 10, 15 minutes of Q&A with him, so I'm excited about that. I'm thrilled that he's here with us.
I love Nate.
So
I love Nate. Nate is the guy you want to follow on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you can follow him because he's young, he's a hustler, he's on fire, he don't play no games, he's a go-getter, he's just my kind of guy, man. So yeah, we're gonna kind of have him back on just for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, pick his brain, have a little chit-chat with him about business and entrepreneurship. So I always have a lot of massive respect for young guys that refuse to settle and go, he's going after his dream, man, and I love that.
Yeah, we're going to jump to him in just a little bit. I do want to open with a question. I want to remind our viewers, if you're on here live, by all means, ask questions, interact using the chat box over to my right, your right, I guess is how that works, over there. And you can also, if you're watching on the archives, or even if you're watching live and you don't necessarily want to ask, maybe you want to ask anonymously or whatever, you can send me email at mike@mattmaddox.com, or you can text us 727-341-5599.
Speaking of, yeah. You struck something when you quoted the word anonymously. I don't ever read a letter that nobody signs. That's just my personal whatever. So if you ever write me, sign your name or I'm not reading it. That's the first thing I do when I open up is scroll down to see a name. If I get a letter in the mail, there's no return address, I skip to page 4. And if I don't see a name, I close it up, throw it in the trash. Literally, that fast, that quick.
Good. Hey, so Mary's mentioning the Raisin Bran commercial. At least it's a Raisin Bran commercial. I watched one of the replays. Anyway, apologize for the commercials and pre-roll stuff. nothing we can do about that yet.
I just want to announce as well that, I'm sorry, Mike, we had a little backlash here, my friend. So if I ever cut you off, then I can easily blame the Fuel for Success or the Spreecast system, right? Works, man. Just announcing that we did not both play in blue today. I just thought I should point that out. It's not like Mike and I would never would we text each other the night before and say, hey, bro, what color are you wearing tomorrow? We're not girls like that. You know how you girls like that kind of stuff. You like the matchy-matchy stuff? Me and Mike aren't into the matchy-matchy stuff. In fact, if I find out he's wearing blue, I'm going for green just because,
Yeah. In fact, I consider changing before I hit go on the Spreecast. No, just kidding.
Funny.
And Karen, we're not beside each other. That's just the camera angles. We're actually facing each other.
Karen loves to call us out. Tell us what we got in store today, Mike, before Karen totally takes over our whole show. No, I love Karen, actually. She's a huge blessing on Fuel for Success.
Yes, she is.
Huge blessing.
That's right. Hey, so first question, you know what? If anybody follows you on social media, they know that any chance you get, I know when you were flying back from Seattle, you were blessed to be able to sit next to two older couples, and you always pick their brain. And I know that in the past you've had opportunity to encounter older business owners and people that have built businesses and those sort of things. And I want to ask you, what from some of the older business owners that you've talked to, and I've been around you enough to know that in those situations you almost conduct an impromptu interview. You're asking questions, and anybody that wants to be successful, that's something you want to emulate because that's powerful. I mean, why wouldn't you access that wealth of information in someone who's been through it? But let me ask you this. In those impromptu interviews that you've had with older business owners, what is one piece of advice that jumps out at you?
It's funny, Mike, because, it's so true. Anytime I meet somebody successful in business, the first thing I do is start picking their brain and, getting to know them. You know what I'm saying? Asking them questions, and it does feel like an interface. Most of my dates, the girls I go on dates with, actually are what, are you interviewing me or something? Because I literally am interested. When I ask questions, I want to know. And Mike, we'll be glad to have you back when you're able to get back on. But probably the one piece of advice that I gleaned, good Lord, I could actually write a book, no joke. I've probably talked to 200 to 300 extremely successful business people. That's one of the advantages of travel. It's one of the advantages of, getting to encounter people, just being a people person. Probably the number one piece of advice actually was in a sauna at my gym. It was about an 80-year-old man working out in there, which I was intrigued by. So while we're sitting there in the sauna, here, Mike, this just doesn't feel right. Let me get over here.
I can't be on that side.
I choose not to allow you to label me OCD just because I'm organized. It's funny to me. I'm organized and everybody's saying I'm OCD. I'm whoa, this is the problem with our country here. But anyways, back to my sauna experience with the 80-year-old gentleman. Extremely successful in the life insurance business. Started his own life insurance company actually, and was extremely successful. And I remember asking him, I said, what's been the secret to your success? I was asking him all questions about business. What's your best advice for a young businessman? What's the number one mistake you made? Why do you think most businesses fail? In all these questions, he said, listen, my number one piece of advice for anybody that's going to go into business is you have got to master the art of focus. And he said, most people are every which way, he said, but what made me successful is I narrowed my lane and I traveled down that lane 24/7 consistently. And he really dove into really started talking about focus and how important it was for a business person not to get sidetracked or distracted. So it goes back to the book we read, Why CEOs Fail. the number one reason is a lack of execution. Well, one of the number one reasons why people don't execute is because they're distracted. I've seen this over and over. I've actually battled through this in my own life. Mike and I can share some of our own entrepreneurship journey of what it's like to have too many irons in the fire and not focus, not develop an obsessive laser focus. And of course, Mike, it's hard to sum it up into like one piece of advice. So maybe like every week I'll share one each week for like 5 minutes. One piece of advice I've gleaned from all these successful people. But that sticks out this morning because I've been thinking a lot about my conversation with him. He was a very motivational person, in shape, 80 years old, high energy, at the gym, in the sauna, talking business, man. Had about to die in there, about a 20-minute chat in the sauna about business, and he outlasted me. He's like, man, I got to get out of here and cool off a minute. He's like, okay, I'll see you later. He's roughing it out in there, man. You got to love it.
That's funny. Hey, that's great advice, and focus is so important. Hey, what do you say we bring on Nate real quick, and we'll do some Q&A with him.
Let's bring him on.
Looking forward to chatting with him. We've had him on before, as I said, and been trying to get him back on. And of course, he's on the West Coast, so timing is difficult. It's very early for those of you on the West Coast. Are you with us, Nate?
Nate, what's going on, buddy? We'll get him on in a second. Let me know when he comes on, Mike. Let's hit the next question until he's able to show up.
All right. Let me see.
Or do you have any pieces of advice that somebody has dished out your way that's really stuck out to you, Mike?
Less advice and more just practical. I love the stories that people tell. And I actually immediately thought of the business owner in Detroit that we talked to. Was it Detroit? The guy who had the amazing tacos in the supermarket. And when he talked about moving in with his parents, I mean, the guy built an entire strip mall, right? And then built a supermarket and built a restaurant inside it all at once. And the sacrifice that he went through to make that successful was unbelievable. I mean, he moved in with his parents. He didn't take a vacation. He didn't take a day off for like 2 years. And that level of focus.
Well, what impacted you about that? Like, when you heard that story, what inspired you?
It inspired me to try and get a camera working.
I love it when I pop a question right on you while you're trying to do some production stuff. I love it.
The thing that inspired me, really, first of all, was his dedication, right? And the fact that, it was his demeanor and the way he talked about it that really inspired me more than the actual story. He was just like, yeah, I mean, you're going to build a business, the economy's slumping, what are you going to do, right? He wasn't like, oh, poor me, I had to live with my parents for 2 years and I didn't take a vacation. He's just like, look, that's what I had to do. And part of it
that's
to me.
That's the mindset of most business people. Mike, can I say this real quick? Let me tell you what I've learned. If I had to sum up the top 10 millionaires that I know, and I know them, I've had conversations with some extremely lucrative, successful people, right? All of them had moments where they were about to lose everything. Many of them went through bankruptcy, foreclosure, repossession. Many of them sold stuff to survive. I'm not kidding. Like, some of the wealthiest people I know had some of the absolute most risky, almost lose it all, sell it all, because they had that whatever it takes mentality. And that's literally the deciding factor of those that stay in their car. I was actually talking to Allie Carr yesterday. We were doing a little coaching session in Starbucks, and she's blowing it up, dude. Let me tell you, that girl's inspiring. She's on fire. Anyways, of course, she came to the Seattle Mission 25. She started a business 3 years ago, man. In 3 years, bro, has hit over $1 million in sales. She actually got voted in one of the fastest growing. I think it's the fastest growing company in Tampa. And she has such a hustle, such a grind. And anyways, we were just talking yesterday about entrepreneurship. And what I told her, I said, listen. Most people don't start a business because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. But where entrepreneurs actually live outside of a comfort zone 24/7. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, there's nothing comfortable about it. this answers the question why some people don't do it or why some people don't last. You got to have the ability to last. You got to have the ability to stick it out in the hard times. And that's some of the things I picked up on some of these people that had massive high-level success. So it's looking like we're not able to get Nate on right now. Keep working on it. Nate, if you can hear me, we love you, friend. If we can't get you on today, we'll hit you next Thursday. But you're an awesome dude. Nate's the real deal, one of my friends, awesome guy. If I ever get out your way, man, we're going to be having some lunch or some sushi or something, man. Hey, when's the wedding, Nate? Put in the chat box. Let us know when the wedding is, my friend. He might be trying to get on from his iPad. I'm not sure. I wonder, Mike, is Fuel for Success going to fix that feature where you can do from your iPhone and iPad?
Is Fuel for Success going to, or is Spreecast? Because it's two separate things.
I get them confused.
I strongly doubt that Spreecast is going to, but we may.
We may. I like that.
We may jump ship. I'm going to keep working on getting Nate on because I really want to get him on. It's early for him, and he made the sacrifice to be here. So let's try to do that. Meanwhile, let me ask you a question. Going out on your own as an entrepreneur, what are some of the fears that you faced? Actually, there we go.
Hey, Nate, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, how's it going, you guys? Sorry about that. It's kept kicking me off the Wi-Fi here or something.
This is what I like. I can automatically tell you why Nate's successful. You ready for this? I'm just going to tell you right now, without him saying one word, I'm going to tell you why this young man's successful. Not only does he have grind and hustle and sweat equity and work ethic and passion. Look at my man. What is it, like 6:15, 6:30? And my man's up, got a suit coat on. You hear me? He ain't in his pajamas. He's not like, yawning. My man's up ready to hustle. He's always up early. That's what I like. Pretty much every highly successful, wealthy, millionaire, successful businessman, most of them are out of bed by 5 a.m. So if you're sleeping past 5, you better get with it, my friend, unless you're staying up working till 2 or 3. Nate, what's going on with you, man? When's the wedding? You're getting married soon?
Not till next year, May 2nd. So we're just planning a few things. But it'll be next year, May 2nd. So
congratulations.
Sorry, I have a little bit of. Thank you. I don't know if it's a Wi-Fi. I have a little bit of delay, so I apologize.
No, don't feel bad. Let me just ask you a question, then you can go at it, okay?
Sure.
So, as you know, every Thursday we talk about business and entrepreneurship, and every Thursday we try to give practical advice. You shared some good content last time you were on the show. I know that you have personally been around a lot of wealthy, successful people, right? I've seen you post pictures on Instagram of multi-millionaires, highly successful businessmen that you might have had lunch with or you've been in a seminar with. What are maybe 3 or 5 traits that you've picked up on some of these highly successful people? And what are some lessons that they have shared with you in some of your conversations, man?
Sorry, what was the last question? I'm sorry, it's kind of freezing up on me a little bit.
That's all right, Nate. Do you think you heard the whole question, Mike, or do you think just the last part? So basically, Nate's like this, okay?
I just didn't hear the last part. So.
Okay. Last part was, with all these successful people that you've met, you've been around some people that have grown companies, multi-millionaires, extremely wealthy, successful, humble, kind people. What are like some traits that you see in them, and what are some lessons that they have taught you or that you have gleaned from these people that you've encountered, some of these successful people?
Sure. One thing is just passion. They love what they do, and they would do anything to, they would work for free if they could. It's passion that gets them up early in the morning and has them, working late at night. And most of the cases, it's not money that drives them; it's the passion. And so, it's that passion that gets me up every morning. It's the love of the game. It's the love of the whatever you're building, like a missions organization. It's the passion, I'm sure, that drives you, that creates success. So I would just say one of the main traits would be the passion they have for whatever they're doing, whatever they're creating. And if it's something you love to do, money will come later, success will come later. It's putting that hard work in, but it's that opportunity of just having that trait of passion.
Very good. I like that, Nate. Nate, let me ask you this, man. So, what about those that have passion, but they're scared to pursue what they love? They're scared to step out and start their own company. What kind of advice would you give them, man?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
That's okay. So basically, if somebody has passion and they've discovered what they love to do, they have a business idea, but they're afraid to start their own business or their own company or to go out on their own. Maybe they have a good, secure job with benefits. What would be your best advice for somebody that is afraid to start their own company or business or follow the path of their passion?
The first thing I would say, and I didn't hear the full question, but the first thing what I did hear was, what would you tell someone who's afraid to start their own business? I would definitely say pray about it, and do market research if there is market research. I would definitely consult in someone maybe that owns a business or someone that's in their field. So if it's someone maybe that's starting like you guys are, a missions organization, a nonprofit, maybe talk to owns a nonprofit and see how they run it, or talk to successful people in that field. And do market research, read about it, study about it, do the best, they could to try to find that gap of starting the business.
Awesome stuff, man. We have a little, I think might be the Wi-Fi issue, Mike, but we need to definitely have Nate back on. Mike, do you have any questions for Nate before we let him go, man?
Oh, I have plenty. So one part of what Matt asked too was if someone's let me ask you this. This is one of the things that people have asked us, and we've certainly given an answer, but I'd love to hear your take on it. How does someone find the things that really make them passionate from a business kind of standpoint? I'm not sure if he's.
I think his Wi-Fi is bad where he's at, Mike, so we'll have him back on. Anyways, we got about 8 minutes, Mike. You can feel Nate's passion. He really is a solid young man. He's a hustler. He's a go-getter. We'll have him back on. He's in an area where his Wi-Fi, we know what that's like, Mike. We've had that happen a few times. So let's dive in. You were getting ready to ask a question right as he was coming on, Mike. What was that question, man?
Absolutely, and it was a lot like the question that you just asked Nate, which he said, what would you tell someone? You asked him, what would you tell someone that's afraid to step out? You personally, you and I are stepping out in a large venture right now. We've done some other entrepreneurial endeavors in the past. What are some of the fears that you faced and that you had to overcome? And then maybe talk a little bit about what you did to overcome those fears.
Well, about 2.5, 3 years ago, Mike, I made an extremely bold, risky move of leaving an extremely comfortable, easy, pretty lucrative income, doing what I was doing to go full-time into business and entrepreneurship. And it was the scariest time of my life, but I got to be honest, the most exciting time of my life as well, because finally, even though it was brutally painful, it was exhausting, it was freaky. There were moments when I would break out into cold sweats because I was literally at a do or die, like burn the ships. There's zero comfort. When you start a business and you leave a job or a way of making money that's so easy, and you have guaranteed income, at least you know that on Friday or Sunday or whenever it is, or Monday, you're getting a paycheck, right? But when you get to a place where there's no guaranteed income, that can become scary, especially if you have, obviously bills, a family to provide for, so it was a scary time. How I overcame the fear was, it's kind of like this, and Allie was actually sharing this yesterday because she was doing a talk to a bunch of entrepreneurs and students, and one of the questions that was on her panel was talking about this very thing. Like, how do you get past your fears? And I love what she said. She said, I was scared out of my mind because, she said, but the one thing was that I was determined to work so hard to ensure that my fears didn't come true. And I can so relate with that. Like, here's how you have to do it, right? The fear is going to be there. There's no way around it. It's just part of the process. We're human. We like what's easy. We like what's comfortable. We like what's tangible. But at the end of the day, you have to be relentless. You have to have guts. You have to be, you have to have kind of not an unhealthy anger, but like this deep, like, I don't want to use the word anger, but this drive that literally, like, you take your fears, you literally grab them by the throat, you hit them head on, you make your fear so small because your success is so big that the fear becomes impossible. And I know that that's kind of our mentality, Mike. That's something that we're literally determined within what we're doing right now. The startup that you and I are releasing at this very moment is extremely scary because both of us just recently made massively huge risk and, we stepped out. But at the end of the day, I think our work ethic and our hustle and our drive and our relentlessness, see, these are traits you have to have. It's going to literally bury the fear. It's going to eliminate the fear. Is the fear there? Yeah, it's around the corner. You can feel it. You can feel it on the back of your neck. You can feel it in the room while you're working. But that's where you gotta increase your actions, and you gotta let the relentless passion come through that says, yeah, I don't care how afraid I am right now. My drive and my hustle and my work ethic and God's help is going to eliminate this fear. So that's how I did it, Mike. And here I am 2.5 years later and completely 100% living life on my terms, my passion, and doing what I want to do, literally. So it was worth the risk. And so now I'm on phase 2 of this risk. And is it hard to sleep? A little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit, of course. Right now I'm like, but we felt that way when we started Mission 25. And I had fears where I called you up and said, Mike, are you sure? Listen, double check me here. Because, man, somebody says we ought to do 6 mission trips. I'm like, let's do 12. Like, we're planning 12 next year, and Mike and I are, like, entertaining maybe, like, one every other week. Like, that's what passion does. You, like, look at it, and instead of scaling back, you actually, like, add more to it. Just to, like, push yourself completely out of your comfort zone. That's what I tell people. Like, instead of, like, scaling back, increase it. Increase your vision and dream. And you want to talk about burying fear, you got to get to a place where it's one or the other. It's success or failure. It's up or down. There's no middle ground here, my friends. It's either I'm getting ready to move into a huge house or I'm getting ready to go sleep in that car out there. There's no middle ground. You hear me?
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Either I'm going to be feeding the homeless. Hear me? Or somebody's going to be feeding me in the line at the homeless shelter. There's no middle ground. I can't move in with mom. Moving in with mom is not an option here. My parents live in Michigan. There's nobody's couch I can sleep on. It's do or die.
And I think that, and I can echo that in a lot of ways. I mean, this is the guy that learned how to swim by jumping off a bridge. So it's, what are you going to do? You make it happen. And I think that the fear of financial security is probably the most common fear. Real quick, Britton asked a question, which is a great question. When you're a single mom, what is a good way to begin prepping for transition from workforce to starting a business? And I've never been a single mom, but I can sort of, look at that situation and make some assumptions. What is your thoughts on that? Prepping for transition.
I think, at the end of the day, Britton, just probably for the next year or whenever, like, let's say you're going to start your business next year I would pretty much live at poverty level and save as much cash as you can, because at the end of the day, cash has an energy, and cash, there is some, and of course, moms need more security than we men. We men are like fearless, and I'm not saying women are not. Please don't misunderstand that. But women are by nature need more security than men. So that's why I would say, Britton, save as much cash as you can, reduce all expenses, get out of debt if possible, and just begin to structure your life in a way that you can work double, work without, neglecting your kids, of course. And, that'd be my advice on the practical side as far as the transition prepping. Go ahead, Mike. You're going to say something?
Two books
Yeah.
that I would say for Britton. The first one, definitely read the $100 Startup. There's some great stuff in there that'll help bootstrap a business while maintaining financial security so that you can make a transition. And if you're somewhat technical minded and of the more engineering mindset and like want to dive into the depths of what the technique is behind, look at the Lean Startup, which is also a great book. So those two things will give you, and what's great about Lean Startup is it gives you, it applies the scientific method to building a business. So between those two books, it should give you a good blueprint and an outline for how you can launch and start a business without a huge financial risk out of the gate. $100 Startup specifically sort of walks through some of the things that you may consider when making the transition from full-time employment to self-employment, that sort of thing. So I would definitely read those two books as part of your prep.
Yeah, and I think that's why, and those are very good on the practical side. But Mike, I think the number one mistake that people make in business is thinking they're going to make a lot of money at first. It's actually the opposite. Most successful business people pretty much live right at about poverty level, even if they have the money, because smart business people reinvest their cash back into the business. Really smart business people would, instead of taking a raise, would actually hire another salesperson. So you really have to be patient to be successful in business, because the biggest mistake I see people making is cashing in too early and not being patient. So that's why I said it's good, Britton, to really get into a mindset. We're talking about prepping which I know you're a saver. I know your story. Save as much as you can now, and just cut back and really just be ready to invest that cash into the business. And then, of course, there's always some one-on-one coaching possible here. It's probably the smartest investment you could make. And you know what they say, Mike? The average successful person has up to 5 coaches. Coaching, I'm telling you right now, if any of you out there can afford a coach, whether it's me, the best one, or other coaches, definitely worth your investment, because coaches can help you see things, strategize, brainstorm, and it's just good to work with someone one-on-one that's been there, that can give you some advice, that can save you some frustration. So I like this book right here. This is a good one. Mike and I have read this. It's really good. In fact, it's one of our favorites. That's the Zappos story, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
I love it. That is one of my favorites. And if someone reads that book, they'll get what it really means to be an entrepreneur. People can be jealous of Zappos' success. Listen, it's like people just don't get it. They don't realize the blood, sweat, tears, and scars in the early days. It's like that book I read one time that says start small, end big. It's the story of Subway. People don't realize, even what Papa John's, when he started his pizza company, he was literally working out of a closet. So, of course, the story of Steve Jobs starting in a garage. I mean, it's not about where you start, my friend. It's where you're going to end up. And where you're going to end up is determined by your work ethic, your execution, and your patience, and many other things that we're out of time to talk about. Mike, why don't you sum this show up, my friend, for us? Tell us maybe 2 or 3 takeaways that people should immediately apply to their life if they're into business and entrepreneurship.
Well, 3 book recommendations that are great: Delivering Happiness, $100 Startup, and Lean Startup. Those are all 3 great books. So if you don't have them or you haven't read them, by all means, read them. There's actually quite a bit of overlap between those 3 books. There's some synergy there. The other thing is follow your passion. Find a passion. I love what Nate shared about some of the things he's learned from people that are successful in business. They're all passionate about what they do. And as Matt said, encountering successful older business people, they were focused. So focus on your passion, read these books, and you're going to be successful.
Awesome. You guys have an awesome day. Thank you for your time. Don't forget, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we'll be talking about family and relationships. Looking forward. Nate, thanks for being on with us today. Thanks for the stuff you were sharing as well. Appreciate our regular viewers. Appreciate those that are watching on the archives. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning talking about family and relationships. Don't forget, you can go to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast by just typing in Fuel for Success. You can always go to our website, fuelforsuccess.tv, and watch any of our previous episodes. God bless you.
See you all tomorrow.